Hi, everybody. This is Allison from Allykat Creations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you have yet to do so. And if you get anything from my work, a connect the dot, an epiphany, a mind explosion, a new book to read, a new author to explore, artwork to create, please help me out. The links are down below. You can check out my website, AllykatKreations211.com, where you could see a plethora of artwork, paintings, drawings, all kinds of fun stuff. And if you're interested in purchasing anything, email me because I do everything privately. Also, I have 3D channel memberships, which helps the channel out. I just had a raffle on Friday. All channel members get a free entry into my raffle. And I do channel member content videos. Last one was an oracle reading. So for those of you who are a member of my channel, you get a little extra fun stuff when I can get to it. Um, I was gonna do a reading tonight, and I'm I'm exhausted. Um, this is the Schumann residence, and we're here. And we're in a really, really big spike. And today at work, I had a child yak. A lot of kids are very nasally. They're going through their purging. A lot of purging is happening, and I want to go and discuss a few things. Alexander Quinn posted something yesterday. And what's just been going on. So I'm gonna probably call this a pondering, maybe. I don't know. I have my coffee. I needed that. Um, I also have a lot of pain in my body, which I normally am used to because I lived with it for over 20 something years. Sad, I'm so young, but yes, got I've had pain since I was 16. So I'm kind of used to it. I'm just uncomfortable more than anything else. There is a snowstorm incoming here on Wednesday, so I might not work on Thursday. I really need to figure my life out and figure it out fast because I can't fathom not getting paid every time it doesn't snow. And these days don't get made up. And what was prescribed on my contract or what I signed, that little paper, might not happen. I don't know. Um, my brains, my brains. I know I didn't sleep last night. A few people commented because I did post a Schumann residence for people. A lot of people have not been sleeping, and it's not just like the last few days, it's like weeks now. We're getting a lot of downloads, a lot of information, light streams, light codes, everything is opening up. And I know for me, when I get really excited about a topic that spirit drops on my lap, I know that's a download. Like that's the information I need to connect my own crazier in-depth dots. And this is quantum panpsychism. Panpsychism is basically the acknowledgement that we're all one, but also that all things have uh consciousness in the field. So the rock, the claim that Dolores Cannon makes, there's actual a name for it. But this physicist Fagin, Fagin, I want to say that's his name. I've been posting about him. I'm he's a physicist, so he's like taking the realm of consciousness and kind of merging spirituality with it, but not necessarily in-depth spirituality. He's connecting some, like, he's putting words to a commentary language that I need to learn from. And I'm not there yet in the quantum realm of physicist language, but I'm getting there. But I would love to challenge him on some things. And that's just based off the fact that we're in classical physics. We live in classical physics. Ontologically, we're in a holographic simulated matrix. And it's this is classical, we're bound by classical physics, but yet the quantum aspect is still there within our consciousness. So this delineation of thinking is something that I mean, I've been in this scope of thinking for a very long time. It's just now there's a physicist in the scientific realm that is putting meaning to commonary things that people were like, well, that's not tangible, Allison. Well, you can't prove that. Well, this guy's going to prove it because he's working on it, right? I hear a cat. Where are you, Freya? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to go live tomorrow. Don't worry. It's just so many thoughts going through my head, and I know a lot of you are having the same occurrence in the field. Um, a lot of us are having lack of sleep, feeling shitty. I mean, let me just go to the source of where I get my information from. Now, I get it from upstairs, but confirmation is always welcomed. I have to find it. What? What is this? Can I share this to myself? God, yes. Voyager fun. Um, that's Ashiana Dean's work. Uh, Interesting stuff there. So this comes from the Ascension page on Telegram. Major throat chakra clearings happening currently. So me losing my voice was probably me clearing my throat chakra. This could present in the form of cough, mucus, sore throat, could also refer to speaking your truth with yourself and others. Always do that. Neck and lower back aches. That was me earlier. I couldn't get the hell up. Solar plexus and sacral chakra cleansing and purging. Themes related to power, self-respect, self-love could be significant. Digestive issues. A lot of things are surfacing right now, and I know for me this has been a theme that I'm playing out, like, and I got to get rid of, and I'm trying the best that I possibly can. But when you live in classical physics in the 3D realm, uh, that doesn't necessarily easily just fade away with not winning the lotto. Um, Body temperature might fluctuate, but I'm in TMI. I'm in perimenopause, so that's gonna happen for us females out there. Um, this is interesting. Emotions of hatred and anger, especially towards those who repeatedly harm others, consciously or subconsciously, might come up. Oh, this has been playing out as a theme for a lot of people. How do you process these energies is up to your free will. You are awakening to parts of yourself like never before. You are remembering past and parallel lives, aspects, forms of you. You are getting reintroduced to who you are at a soul level. Starseed/wanderers feel homesick and really want to go back home. I absolutely just want to go to my light body and just deliver the light and the love unconditionally and compassionately to all beings. Like the ending of Powder is like the antithesis of what I hope that my soul does when it's done here. Merging all back with the one. And that doesn't mean the source of all things. That just means one with all that is consciously in the field of vibration that I'm at. Um, so this kind of explains why that happened to me. And I mean, yeah, there's a lot of bugs going around in schools and you know. So Alexander Quinn has very similar the Arcturian message is pretty weighty and long, but a lot of things are intense right now for a lot of us. I know for myself, it's like I'm at collapse point in my emotional state and physical state. I mean, I'm fine, but the aspect and theme that I'm playing out is I'm done. I'm checked out and I should not be, and I have no choice but to figure it out, and I don't know what to do. I'm tired. So I'm just scrolling through because it's a really long, and I don't like to steal other people's like work per se, but he's saying, no wonder these shifts feel so profoundly rapturous. Your frequency is leaping between vibrational states at a velocity your star families perceive as near instantaneous. And it is near instantaneous, and we're doing it constantly. Bashar says that. Um, yeah, there's a lot happening within the energetic fields. Um, Emotionally, rationally, there is a lot going on. And I know each person's feeling it and experiencing it differently. Um, that's for sure. The I was channeling major earlier, major. I want to also say that there's a bunch of you who are starting to get your abilities enhanced. I know that my things are enhancing my abilities, and we're all different. So there's similarities to abilities, but not any one person exhibits the same exact ability. So there's many plethora of channels out there. I am not a trans channel. I don't choose to do it. I'm a clear cognizant channel, which that's one of the things I would love to ask Federico, the physicist, How do people channel in higher dimensionality? And that's proven through quantum entanglement, because if you're one with all things, you are one with the quantum field that's outside of you, that's unclassical, and you're picking up on thought streams and entanglements to photons and light source consciousness that's in higher dimensionalities. So it is possible. It's just now prove the shit tangible so that people can stop saying, well, that's bullshit. Not that I care. I don't. But there's a lot of those out there that don't think that they channel, and they absolutely do. And sure, you can have inference in the waveform that the negative polarity will get through and try to breach. Yes, not saying it doesn't happen. It does. And it's shown to you by a plethora of different people who channel. There's a lot of agendas and a lot of narrative steering through people who do channel. You got to be very, very, very heightened in your discernment, in your heart alignment when you're listening to people. Listen to the information objectively and make your best assumption and judgment. This is rough. This is why I didn't do a reading, because I was going to do the sacred doctrine, and nope. Oops. As we're traversing these epiphanies, these downloads that you might receive, whether it be in a dream, you dreamt something. Now it's like you remembered that little fragment in your dream, or like reading the Holographic Universe book. Didn't get too far still into it. Every time I want to read, I am interrupted by a lot of things. But finding that video was spirit dropping in a loop. Like, oh, you got to listen to this guy. This is going to expand you even further. Like, there's no bounds and ends to when you think you're expanded, it just drops another nuclear weapon on you, and you're like, what? Don't shy away from those big things. And don't have expectations of how far there's no limitations. This is where I had a pause because upstairs was giving me information. Us humans feel limited, and we are technically limited in time space. We're limited here. We're separated. It's an illusion, but one that serves us, that we are in. It's reality that we are separated. It is a reality that we are limited in what we have in thoughts, until there is an expansion in the field of the waveform. So think of ether, think of waves of information, and that we finally are ready to integrate that information within our being, in our vessel, in our materialistic human form, mind. Me just understanding, implementing, applying, integrating the oneness, the divine neutrality was like step one. For me, I have to unlayer things and unwrap the box that keeps on having another box and another box and another box and another box and a million things to unwrap until I get to the crux of what the hell did Spirit drop into my lap and why is it asking me to figure this out? Now, each and every one of you are not going to be into the same things that I'm into, but be kind to yourself when you're in the unawareness stage where you get an inkling for something, but you can't put your finger on it. You have a feeling, you had an experience, you really like can't put to words. There are things that you really can't like verbiage wise explain. You could try, but it's not inexact. And it's hard to sometimes filter through what happened. Then the next portion is and now unraveling self to figure out why did that experience even happen in the first place. Like I'm at the stage of this integration of this pain psychism, not because I believe in it. It's a concept that I'm going to read a little something that I just found because I want to explain where my thinking goes. And the reason why I like doing that, you might not even comprehend anything that I read or that comes out of my mouth when it says the unity of one, we're all one. Like you can't even conceptually see it. That's okay. I wanted to bring you on my journey on how these things occur to me because somewhere out there, one of you will relate and be like, oh, okay, so that's why that happened to me. Or that's what the process that I'm going through. When you're sitting on a higher waveform, there is not too many people, or there might be in your realm of peopling that will even comprehend anything that you say. There's a small portion that get it, but they can't apply it just yet. And then there's the other percentage of people that will humor you just to be kind. Uh, and that's just going out in life and people like, uh-huh, yeah, yes, you to death. I get a lot of that at work. I think I scare a lot of people too. But when it comes to what is going on with you in your ascension path, with your missions, with you integrating information, a lot of us are sitting on the cusp of major changes and things fading in and out of existence. I know for myself, I've faded away from a lot of things that no longer serve my soul, not the personality, not this body, my soul. And it's really difficult right now because I know I have to merge into the higher self. I know I'm merging in and have already merged a lot of my aspects into me. The process is not easy. And as humans, we have emotions, we do have attachments. I started the undetachment phase when I had to literally ask my parents, is it okay to pawn your stuff? Because I just don't know how to feed myself. And I was desperate and I didn't know what to do. And my parents are like, yeah, it's just stuff. Stop, let go. It's okay. You know, for me, it's the legacy that they wanted to leave to me that I held that belief in my mind that all the stuff that they have accumulated and worked really hard for was stuff that I was gonna forever keep until my passing and pass it on. But I don't have heirs to anything. I have to call these financial people for my retirement, even though I don't know if I'm going to be with the same school system. So the $57 they acquired from me thus far, I don't know what to do with. But, they always ask for a beneficiary. What am I going to leave everything to my cat? And Odin passed away within 6 months of me getting him. So I really want to leave it to a cat and then they die and then I have to redo a million forms of paperwork? Uh, you know, and who do you leave it to? For me, I don't know. This is like the hard stuff that comes into your frame of mind, stupid as it is. I'm in that I'm ignoring life stage right now. Not ignoring it in the way that I'm not living it, but I'm not trying to cause myself to go any whiter in my hair. Like this is gray, oxidize a blonde. It works, but I'm not trying to go stark white right now. And there's not many people that even can comprehend the bigger picture right now. We're still living in limitation, and that's the bridge where I hope more people start jumping from limitation into less limitation, at least in their thinking. Um, this process that we're all doing is something that has never been done before in human events. Human events. That doesn't mean we haven't ascended. I've ascended a bunch. My oversoul, like your oversoul, chose to be here. They orchestrated all of this. And now I'm reading information about the waveform and the function and consciousness from a physicist's point of view that's looking beyond the classical physics. And he's like, well, there is free will. I don't think there is or isn't. I'm like in that stage of like, okay, you have to show me and put it in a way that I could go within and align if there is the free will, but we wrote the story, we're in a hologram. So there's something to where I have to do more research on what Mr. Federico was putting out there with just his theory. It's still a theory, but it's closing the gap with science and spirituality and metaphysics. And it's really exciting. I'm excited. Um, the last time I was this excited, I'm like really into some like material was the Stargate and finding that I lived on one. And then I did a really big deep dive into self and did a lot of exploratory meditation and different types of going within and figuring my life out and making it make sense. And I did. That's why I've done the Hermit's Journey and the stories that I read from Manly P. Hall and incorporated a lot of Nisha into it was because it's a journey that we're all taking since our carnation embodied here in the now moment. How do you go out into society and speak to your other selves? What are the archetypes of your other selves, and how do you deal with your other selves? And that's everybody outside of you. How do you traverse this planet in recognition that all is an illusion in the first place, but you're still tangibly living in space, time, space? That you have to have a certain number of experiences in order for the grand plan to say, oh, yeah, now it's your turn to graduate. You're moving on up. But we don't know what that actually looks like. How do you put blind faith into that? People speak of these masterful, amazing timelines and potentialities that sound like overly fanciful. And I'm not saying that they don't exist. I absolutely am one for that existence. But you have to bring the imagination and harness in what can be brought into this locale. Going through the journey of self is a long process and it never ends. It's finding people that are thinking on the same wavelength, that have the same vibratory state and frequency that you do. Not to say that you have to believe and be amongst all like-minded people. You don't, and you shouldn't be. Innovation comes from difference, inference, different perceptions. If you weren't challenged, you would never grow. And I think it's time that a lot of us are acknowledging the bigger growings, leaping forward in thought and seeing beyond the capabilities and limitations of this realm. We're starting to merge in with other selves that have already experienced some crazy amazement that we're getting little snippets and tastes of. And it's hard to put into words. I know a lot of people out there are struggling. I get a lot of emails. Uh, when the human starts going up and then we start seeing the planetary stuff happening, a lot of people do reach out to me about their experiences and they're like, you're gonna think I'm crazy. No, I don't. Spirit's here. In my proximity, I'm welling up again. Um, no one's crazy. You're just capable of reaching to another state of being. You're jumping and flipping into higher realms of states of mind, and your body is fluctuating in and out of these time frames, these time dilations. You're seeing different parts of the multiverse. And that's where I want to fine tune. This is what I think Spirit dropped this physicist into my lap, and amongst others, is to really like hone in on the science aspect of it. I could talk about the spiritual stuff all day long, but when you have people that are trying to actually create experiments and try to prove the quantum states of us, it's really exciting. But most people that are down here need to have tangible evidence in order to believe. Where I never had the need to have tangible evidence in order for me to understand something exists. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people need proof. A lot of skeptics live amongst the realm. And it's not just laying hands over somebody and healing them. It's going within and knowing, having that knowing that it's real. or at least it exists somewhere else. There's a possibility that these things are somewhere else. We just haven't seen them in this reality. Stuff is mind-blowing. And I know a lot of you are going through the same sort of process that I'm going through. You get something dropped into your lap, whether it be a concept, a drawing, a book, a video, and then you're off to the races exploring. It's fantastic. So don't ignore the little nuances in your life that are probably the signs screaming at you. Sorry, I have a crystal quartz in my hand. It's the little things sometimes that bring on the bigger things. Whether it be thought, concepts. That's why I challenge myself to be more creative with just, what do I want to paint today? I don't know. I'm not forcing it either. I'm not really looking at anybody else's work to say, oh, that's going to be what I'm going to do today. You know, you can go on Pinterest or Google Images and just look at a bunch of stuff and, compose a painting. Anybody could do that. This came straight from mind and just did it. I know a lot of you are very talented creators in your own right, creating beautiful artwork, crafts, metalwork. The limits, there is none. It's just having to tangibly figure out how it works in this realm. That a lot of us are having the problem. Figuring it out. Innovating on how to have an energy exchange of equal, so that you can live in the 3D and yet still exist in the higher realms in mental thought. So quantum panpsychism and the light bulb metaphor, Emmanuel Rainsford. Anything with light bulbs I'm down for. Abstract. This paper outlines an approach which casts new light on some unsolved issues surrounding mind and matter. Like, what tells them apart? How do they communicate? It argues, with a little help from quantum physics, the plane matter may be richer than what we are wont to believe. It assumes that consciousness is a non-material content of the world and infers that the mind expands beyond the biological brain. It also suggests a new way to figure out what the role of the brain plays in conscious awareness. And it puts forward a fresh insight on regards to the mind-body dialogue. Why panpsychism? Conscious awareness is a big mystery. It is hardly accounted for by materialism or physicalism, which holds that science can, in principle, give a full account of every fact, event, and object in our universe. Is this claim true? And more pointedly, can science as it is today handle the issue of sentience? I do doubt it. All the more so that, as emphasized by David Chalmers, it is widely agreed that experience arises from a physical basis, but we have no good explanation on how and why it is so arises. Besides, wrote Stephen Taylor, for about 30 years now, neuroscientists have been attempting to explain consciousness in terms of brain functioning, but have made no progress whatsoever. Even amongst mainstream scientists, There is a growing acceptance now that consciousness can't be explained in terms of neural mechanisms. Mm. I just had to shift to another, it's an essay that I'm trying to find the light bulb analogy. I'm skipping around. I use the word psychism as an umbrella word referring to the whole gamut of awareness. Limited panpsychism, then, rests on the assumption that every particle is also a seed of sentience or a speck of awareness. As Thomas Nagel puts it in his book Mortal Questions, the basic physical constituents of the universe have mental properties, whether or not they are of a part of living organisms. He writes, if the mental properties of an organism are not implied by any physical properties of the organism's constituents, then those constituents must have non-physical properties from which appearance of mental properties follow when the combination is of the right kind. Since any matter can compose an organism, all matter must have these properties. I fully agree with Nigel, and a similar view prompted me to think of matter as something richer, something blessed with an extra content or dimension that I call hollow matter. Here I assume it be the true face of matter, and then dubbed hollow particles, the elementary particles of hollow matter, that for simplicity's sake, I'll often call particles too. The strand of limited psychism that is based on hollow matter deserves to be named a quantum panpsychism. We'll soon gather why. It assumes that two types of causality that I call out causation and in causation coexist in nature. My hunch is that they bring about some odd quantum features to their very presence and by their interplay. Out causation means causation from the outside. In causation means causation from the inside. Out causation or causation from within, from without, is a form of causality forced from the outside. It is out of reach and cannot be tampered with makes it changeless and deterministic. In short, out causation comes from deterministic. In causation or causation from within stems from the inside as if driven by some inner agency. Therefore, it is within reach, as it were. It can be modified by sudden and unpredicted self-willed changes. And so, if smacks of randomness, in short, incausation displays randomness. So interesting. And I know that a lot. This is why like metaphysics and quantum physics and a lot of these concepts are not easy to understand because of the language that it uses to describe things. Like what physics in explanation needs to stop doing is like the inference words. It's like, here's my thought, but then we're going to change a little bit of that direction because it's implying multiple things, but yet you're not going into the gist of what this is. You're like going off into a million different axioms and explanations that throw people off into a loop. Postulates and all kinds of these branchy words. Yes, I'm in education. I don't know my grammar. But I think that's what throws a lot of people off is the basics. These things are not easy to comprehend at all. A lot of people that are just, try to view my channel, they're like, I don't understand a damn thing you're saying. But what you can understand is where this essay is really like looking at is the concept that everything like this chicken has some sort of sentience, essence, because their subatomic particles, when stitched, leave energy imprints on the material that someone touches. It's why when I make my pyramids, I'm holding the gems which already have memory, and each gem has a different property of consciousness or energy field that does something to aid humans or aid the environment or negate something so that negative energy it absorbs and then transmutes. So a lot if Dolores Cannon is stating that you were once the tree, the air, the rock, and I do the same because I believe it, um, at some vibratory racial space, that rock is super dense, but it's still in, by the laws of nature, vibrating. If it's vibrating, it has subatomic particles and it also has consciousness. Really, really slow. Ra talks about the planetary systems like Gaia. We name Earth Gaia. Why? That's her consciousness. How can a planet be conscious? How does it have its own thinking? Well, this is where Federico says there's a conscious field that's outside of you. That's how where most of us are channeling and entangled to the higher realms because our photonic particles are out there. But it's just trying to figure out the verbiage here. It's crazy. Okay, I found it. The poached egg and lamp metaphors. In what follows, it will be helpful, I believe, to think of the hollow particle as a poached egg, since both this egg and the hollow particle have two very different parts, one obvious, the other hidden. I could add, with an eye on quantum entanglement, that the obvious and solid part is clear-cut and disconnected from one particle and egg to another, while the hidden, soft and sticky part is prone to be glued from one particle to another. In this culinary metaphor, the poached egg's solid whites stand for the particle's out causal part, and the soft and sticky yolk stands for its incausal part. To keep it simple, I say that a particle shows its white when its evolution is outcausal. This white-driven evolution is smooth, deterministic, wave-like, and relativistic. This meaning that it follows the rules of Einstein's relativity. A particle shows its yolk, on the other hand, when its evolution is incausal. This yolk-driven evolution occurs as the incausal part is active, whereas it is dormant or latent most of the time. It elicits a random event that has none of the usual trappings of matter and can be thought of as non-physical. Besides, when the yolks of two particles are glued or welded together, these particles are said to be entangled. The upshot is that a particle of hollow matter comes under two alternative guises, much like water that can be liquid and also solid ice. One guise is at the white-driven state where the white calls the shots, whilst the yolk remains dormant or latent. I call it the matter state. The other is the yolk-driven state, where the yolk holds its sway and triggers a random and waveless micro event. I call it the parallel state. The particles of hollow matter are thus characterized by a matter-para duality, which incidentally could be the root cause of the wave-particle duality of quantum mechanics. Additionally, and most importantly, the hollow matter hypothesis gives a possible handle on the vexed question of conscious brain, provided we go one step further and assume that the particles out causal white, deterministic and law-abiding as it is purely material. The particles in causal yolk, prone to low-level initiatives and hence seemingly random, is psychical. The view that the white is physical and that the yolk is psychical strongly suggests that the brain consciousness and the mind-body dialogue both involve the particles, yolks, and their interactions with the whites, except these interactions, if they exist, to be markedly different from the deterministic wave-like and relativistic matter on white interactions. Also expect these interactions, be the yolk or yolk white, to be weird and baffling for physicalism, as it flatly ignores the yolks and makes no room for the incausal that pull their strings. Has science unwittingly spotted them? I believe it to be the case with quantum physics, even though this theory cannot yet make sense of them, given that it disowns in causation. Now to go further, I put forward the M hypothesis, where M stands for immaterial and immanent, as I explain now. Schematically speaking, materialism takes it for granted that the consciousness is both material and immanent, while dualism or spiritualism takes it for granted that consciousness is both immaterial and transcendental. But these aren't the sole options. Indeed, the MM hypothesis stands somewhere in between in the following sense. With materialism or physicalism, it shares the idea of immanent consciousness. While with dualism or spiritualism, I don't like that they coined that together, it shares the idea of non-material or immaterial consciousness. So, like I was saying earlier, classical physics to quantum physics. Accordingly, the conscious brain can be understood through the light bulb metaphor along these lines. If a light bulb emanates only a few photons at a time, it hardly generates any light at all, since this light is much too dim to be seen. When, on contrary, it yields high myriads of photons, as it normally does, it produces the visible light. This is obvious enough, but think brain instead of light bulb and consciousness instead of light. And this is the theory that I pose with energy equals consciousness equals light. A light bulb that gives off a few photons at a time becomes a brain, where not so many jumps occur at a time. Too few jumps or sparks of consciousness won't add up to a full-blown conscious state, except this state to be dim. It would take vast and consistent streams of entangled jumps to achieve true consciousness, much like a visible light arises from a huge flow of photons. My proposed insight in a nutshell is that the brain is a catalyst of the mind. It is a biological lamp of sorts that pours out untold sparks of consciousness instead of untold sparks of light or photons in the case of ordinary lamps and light bulbs. If so, it is little wonder that our experience and preconceptions are correlated with what goes on in our brain. Indeed, some of the brain's neural activity could be about spawning large flows of active and entangled yolks that within the MM framework would underpin ordinary consciousness. They are dynamical, and this would be the reason why our minds are never at rest. This, in a few words, gives an outline of the proposed insight on the conscious brain, which makes it plain why consciousness, albeit immaterial, needs a physical structure to catalyze it into being, just as saying urban nightlights need lamps, and what have you to catalyze light into being. In the light bulb metaphor, consciousness can reach various possible levels of awareness, much like light given off by a lamp can vary in intensity. As Susan Greenfield puts it, consciousness is like a dimmer switch that can be turned on gradually. I like that. There's a... Oh, he talks about qualia too. Mr. Federico talks about qualia. I'm going to read this and then I'm going to save this article. All life forms are part and parcel of a big whole, of a cosmic community held together by a universe-wide patchwork of unseen psi, or psychical threads, tangles, and webs. Owning to it, we live in a truly participatory world. We bask in all-encompassing pool of shared psi resources. This pool can be likened to a world soul, to an indwelling energy which permeates unseen everything and everyone. Being the wellspring of our egoless nature, it makes us vastly larger than life. It's pretty cool. So these are I know that's probably way over your guys' heads. Maybe, I hope not, and I don't like to make that assumption. Um, I don't. But before, Spirit dropped me this analogy. For those of you who are still like stuck in the metaphysical components to this. So upstairs I have a modem that's connected to wires that's putting out, whizzing right now, a string of numbers and in information that somehow miraculously hits my motherboard in my computer for me to use the internet to get live, to be processed and seen. Can you see the particles and numbers, the colors, the waveform in the air right now? Can you see those waves whizzing by your brain in your body? It's going through you. Can you see the radio waves? Can you see any of this stuff? How does that work? How does the Wi-Fi get into your computer or your phone for it to be connected to the world? Do you actually see the particles and the subatomic particles and the entanglement that occurs with the Wi-Fi signal coming from my modem and the signal that's coming from my computer that are entangled together that somehow pull each other and attract, and here you have internet? Now, I can say the same thing about how I channel. Can you see the entangled information of photonic light energy hitting my vehicle and my being? Streaming, like I can visually see some people channeling. Like I can see the light waves and the vortex from them. There's so many things in this world that are untangibly seen, but yet still exist. And that's why metaphysics is so important. It's when you can grasp that concept that you are a fractal of all things, and yet you don't realize it because you're not in perception of it. When you can understand the basics, you can start expanding into higher concepts, like what I was just reading. That's a little bit mind-blowing even for me. But I understand it. And I have applied a lot of this in the last couple of days into my thinking process. What does this mean? Why am I talking about this so much? Besides the process that I'm getting entangled to my higher self, to drop me information to help my own self clarify why my thoughts are my thoughts and why am I thinking these things and what will it do to help humanity. I'm still unraveling that. But the process of firstly understanding self, that you're way bigger in conception than you can even imagine, that you're in all things, but you are having a higher fractal in bigger parts and some are parts and some are not. You need proof. Where do your thoughts come from? Where do your epiphanies and light bulb moments come from? There are people who just don't get certain things, and then one day something in the puzzle snaps in the right way. And you're like, holy shit! Those holy shit moments, when you finally grasp something, it is major and intense, and it lights up your frequency, and then it allows more information to come in because you just had that holy crap. I knew I knew this. I just didn't have that puzzle piece. Now you get the puzzle piece, and it's like explosions. Like I've been talking about this quantum stuff for a while and knowing that I'm in all things, but now there's actual tangible people putting out theorems out there and suggestive language to say, well, this is a potentiality. We just don't have the machinery or the mathematical equations with the psychology to figure this out, but there is connection. We're just figuring it out. The physicist that I talk about had a profound spiritual experience that catalyzed him to start looking into consciousness. And it's beautiful. His story is beautiful. And I highly suggest to go. Well, I post a lot on my Facebook. So please, if you're not on my Facebook, just let me know that you're from my channel and I'll let you on. I don't post crazy stuff. Um, but I'm finding a lot of people who interviewed him, and his stuff is like a year old. It's fresh. It's not like this is like 25 years old concept. This is like from his perspective new. It's not new. It's just now being able to be explained through physics, quantum physics. The analogy that I was reading, I hope helped you grasp some of the things that I can actually conceive and physically like imagine. But this is I'm reading this and I'm talking about it so that you guys understand that, like, I'm showing you how evolution is working just through me and not coming from the ego place, because all of you are evolving, because a lot of you are having some very profound experiences and don't hold those inside unless you're super personal and you're still unraveling all of those elements. please make sure you're vocalizing your experiences. You need to get it out. Because once you actually put the waveform of your voice into motion out to have a cause and effect in the world, you can even write a book. And if it never gets published, it doesn't matter because it's being entered into the field. That ether, that wave bandwidth that is whizzing through our head that we're just plucking information from, that is being attracted in our toroidal field and in the physical shell that we're in, we're attracting all of this into us. And different things are going to be attracted into different people. I'm going to give you an example. So I've been saying on my channel that there's a potentiality that the art teacher might be retiring, and I'm trying to find a pathway to be getting my teacher certification so that I could teach art. That's a passion of mine. And I'm like, well, how would I be able to present to the principal that I am competent in writing a lesson plan and going forth with a plan? I mean, I know I've been in education for 10 years. I know what they look like, but how do I do it in an art sense? So then Modrian came to mind because we're talking elementary school and we're talking about simplistic horizontal vertical lines. We're talking about primary colors, shapes, squares, rectangles, negative space, positive space, composition. We're talking about a whole plethora of things within one conceptual guy who did geometric painting. How can I simplify that to a child? Because children at kindergarten and first grade are learning primary colors, secondary colors, learning compositions, learning shapes, colors, sizes, and going with their gut. And I had a whole concept in my head of how I would cut the paper out and how the kids can make their own composition using the Modrian example of his artwork. Come to find out, it's already existed in a curriculum because I was looking at pictures and then something popped up, Spirit put it in my path. Here it is. Didn't even know it was out there, that it existed. So the project that I thought was original in my head already existed out in the ether, and I just grabbed that bit of information, that qualia, that qubit of information, and entangled it into my mind. My mind unraveled the waveform, all the information, and it goes, oh yeah, paper, pencils, perception. So where do your thoughts really come from? In all the years that I was in art school and in the art world, I never thought about looking at making a curriculum or putting together different methods of curriculum for kids because I never was presented with the opportunity before. So how do you just get a project that you don't know that is out there and then you find out it is already existing? It's mind-blowing. And it's not to take credit. It's just it baffles me. It's amazing to think that that exists. I never did think that it would, and it did. And I'm very humbled for that. If more people would look into Tesla and how he got his information, that's tangible evidence. most people that are rationally minded that their light bulb is dimmed, there's photons going on there. There is some light, but it's not strong enough. Are having a hard time conceiving people like myself and many of you when we talk about the paranormal, the spiritual, the untangibleness of this materialistic world. We're merging out of a causal physics to a quantum state of physics. The math, the thinking changes. We're going under the lens of the microscope even further and further and further and further to see that there's not just atoms, there's subatomic particles. There's things that you can't see yet still exist. So why is this hard to believe that my modem is sitting upstairs in the opposite part of my house, but yet the computer down here on the other side of the house is getting a billion, million, trillion bits of data a second for me to do a video, for me to have every portion of myself show on camera. If you break life down in that simplistic but insane way, a lot of things will start making sense. Maybe, maybe not. So all the things that are going on in the world right now that seem so significant, for me, kind of faded away. Sure, it does affect me to certain extents in certain ways, but in other ways, my quantum brain is like, does it really matter, or what we're throwing at you really matters? So that you can understand a bigger chunk of the universe even better. It's unfolding. We're all unfolding into this big, beautiful, harmonious, blissful experience. And we're all individuated to each have a part of that experience. It's a beautiful thing. But it's very difficult at the moment to wrap your mind around the other selves. I caught some comments and I took some screenshots the other day of the reasoning of my reasoning. My boundaries are up high right now in certain areas because I already have a lowered vibratory state due to my position in the world. Not that I want to have a lower vibration. I am trying to keep it as high as possible, but I'm also purging, and that's also allowing myself to move through the feelings, move through the emotional states that are holding me back so I feel them and release them. If we don't experience them, we're not going to be able to let it go, as Elsa would say. So, for those of you going through shit right now, and I know most of us are, acknowledge it. Don't, like I'm having a hard time figuring out my circumstances. I don't want to see my bank account because I don't want to have a conniption fit. I don't want to lower my state of vibration any further. Yes, it's a reality I'm going to confront, but right now in my mindset, I can't. It makes me want to cry. It makes me want to do things that I don't want to do because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get out of my circumstances without moving again or disappearing. I don't want to do any of that. That's not rational. I already did a big move. I already gave up everything. What else do I have to give up? I came into this world to have these circumstances, yes. But at what point can I take it physically and mentally? And I'm at that breaking point. I was talking to a beautiful soul earlier about that. I'm done. I'm tired. And I'm in my 40s. I should already be the closest to retirement age, like maybe 10 to 15 years from retiring. I just now starting again. And then I have the people that are, well, this is going to happen on this date and this is going to happen. Oh, and it's incoming. Well, that doesn't help me now, right? What's going to help me now? And I know a lot of you are in that state of what the hell is going on now, not in the future, because the future hasn't been written yet. I could shift my timeline 5 more times before next week if I choose to. We're all in a status of stillness, of figuring it out. I know a lot of us have gone more inward in the last couple of months. I know a lot of people are putting up boundaries and finally sticking to them when it comes to exposing yourself to lower vibratory states of other beings, because many of us are empaths. And even though we can objectively look at something or hear something, it still lowers your state. I'm already around low vibratory people all day. And then high intensity children all day. It's draining, gratifying as hell. I love my job, but one has to eat. And at what point do I say fuck it and end it all and just disappear? And that doesn't mean ending anything, life. That just means me going finding a little cabin in the middle of nowhere and then just fading into the destined land. It's a potentiality, but that's not where my mission lies. So my higher self really needs to start figuring it out and putting it out there now. It has to start figuring it out now, not fucking tomorrow, not in 3 weeks. Divine timing. I hear about this. Oh, be patient. Well, I've been patient my whole life. I've been serving source my whole life. I have sacrificed a whole hell load of stuff that most people are not in awareness of. And I'm not alone in this thinking. We're tired. And this is like a part of the purge that we're going through and a part of the energetic field that's going on right now. I get it. I'm feeling it. I know many of you are too. So I figured I would, instead of doing a reading that my eyes can just, I can't read much. Like that was hard to read. My eyesight in general. And before all my holistic people, I have a thing with my eyes. Like I could put makeup around my eyes. When it comes to putting things in my eyes, like I can't do contacts. I can't, the drop thing kills me. Even if I have to put my finger close to my eye, it's like, get away from me. There's so much ego going on. So much ego. We need to get out of it. And I want to say thank you to all of you who have been making the best attempts to try. I'm not there yet either. I am not a master and I will never claim to be one. We all have to come into a realization that we all have a path. We all chose, spirits here again. We all chose a direction, a theme, things to explore. And what it ended up happening once that veil of forgetting hit as soon as we were conceived, by the way, when the egg and the sperm meet, there is a flash of light. They actually have imagery of that happening. Sorry, my legs are killing me. I need to put them up. This is spark of God, the consciousness, the photon that entangles to all that is. We're moving from a chemical body to a crystalline, potentially. I don't know how many people are actually getting there in this lifetime. It's probably not. But we are evolving slowly and very methodically. We have to give ourselves grace and compassion for the fact that we are in unknown times. That your story is unfolding before you, and it's always going to forever unfold, because this is just one portion of you and the millions and billions of versions of you that live out in the multiverse, if that exists. And if we could tangibly prove it. You know, what I say is just theoretical in a physicist's classical setting. It's hearsay. I truly believe what I receive is from the highest light of consciousness, from my own self in the higher realms. I know many of you feel the same. When other people that are around the world and you discover them have the same thinking as you do, like Federico, he's just a scientist, physicist, who stumbled upon it and had an experience that changed his course of thinking and really applied what his life's work was to a different type of concept. And it's fantastic. Do I agree with everything? Not everything, but I align with his thinking for the most part. Almost 90% of it I'm on board with. I've always said in my other videos, I've always challenged physicists and people who understand quantum states to take it the step further of density, not just dimensions. Because dimensions, the way that a scientist look at it, is actual dimensional geometry, potentially. But if you look at the holographic version of Penrose and everything that you, as the observer, are seeing is unfolding before you, because you're entangled to the quantum information that is out there that for you to capture. And once you observe it, it forms. Now think density and how the different states of density and dimensions work outside of classical, outside of quantum. We're only understanding to where our 3D conception lies. So much projection of hate. I hold space for all of those who are still in duality and separation, that you have to think about others' demise. It's a waste of time. If you want justice to be served, jump into that timeline. All people are going to judge themselves at the end of the day, at the end of their lives. And when we sit in judgment of others, we're judging ourselves and the aspects of ourselves that are not healed. Lastly, and I'll touch more about this tomorrow during craft and sit. I already have some stuff that I'm thinking about. There is no absolute in third dimensional space. Your vibratory state and frequency is constantly shifting in and out of timelines. In and out of timelines. Hang on. If everybody's thoughts become things, and it takes a very long time for them to manifest in third dimension, how many other dimensional spaces exist that it does your manifestation exists in? His story, his perception is perceived through millions of different ways, versions, and eyes. So is there a right or a wrong in this world? Is there a story that's conceived in one possible way? If you read Plato's allegory, everybody's going to take that allegorical story and apply it to them, and it's going to be perceived differently. The frequency of love, you and only you can know the feeling that you get when you feel the state of that word definition, love. But not everybody's going to experience love the same way or feel it or emote it in the same form as you. That's how complex and insane this world gets. There are so many different versions and perceptions and ideas and things. You can't ever claim that this is the one and all be all story that is deemed to be human, the human evolution, the free will that we all exhibit. Is it really free? Potentially, potentially not. Are we living in a parallel dimensional space, time? Are we shifting in and out of densities right now? Absolutely. Within every millisecond, my body is glitching in and out and in and out, and it's vibrating. And it might be vibrating a little higher and a little lower and a little this and a little that. That's jumping into different parallel spaces. That's all existing. If you believe in the multiverse. If you believe in timeline and quantum jumping, you have to believe in the multiverse. Maybe not. Try to figure that one out for another day. But I know Spirit has been coming in with a lot of energy and light and encodings and downloads for me to like sift through. I know I go in waves. I know I'm physically being affected heavily right now. I know many of you are too. So please make sure you're taking the time. Valentine's Day is going to be Friday. Guess what? Take that bath. Do something for yourself. Even if you are with somebody, make sure you give yourself something or do something for yourself that's nice. We got to take care of ourselves. And you have to take care of your mental state. I'm working on it right now. It's been very difficult figuring out 3D and having all these beautiful thinkings and wisdom words and concepts hit my brain and then I'm like brought back to fucking reality where it's like, hey, fuck you, bitch. You're gonna suffer. Yeah, suffering is a state of mind. I'm not really in that suffering, but it is affecting me. And I'm just trying to figure it out, and I haven't gotten my answer yet. And it's getting dangerous. I don't like to jump into something without investigating all the components to it. And I don't have a real sounding board to I don't have a parent to say, well, that's a stupid idea. Don't go do that. Don't do bankruptcy. Go for consolidation, even though that still sucks. That's less sucky. So what is my less suckier choice? I don't know. That's the hard part, is when you don't have a sounding piece to figure it out with you. And how many people do you want to share your personal shit with is another question for another day. But I figured I'd come on just for a little bit to just unravel some of my thinking, ponderings. Um, this is going to be a thing until I get it down pat. So sorry. I will be live tomorrow for Craft and Sip. I don't know on the timing. I have a half a day with the kids, and then I'm at a professional development that I really am like despising going to. Um, Bigly. Don't want to be there. Don't like the energy. And I already feel it. Don't I like the people, just the energy. So until the next one, guys, till tomorrow. Um, keep your head up. I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to do that myself. Um, trying to be optimistic, trying to pave my own way forward without harming, or I don't know what words I can use to describe how I feel inside. Um, but I'm just going to keep the positive forward momentum that I have going for me. And I just hope that I'm not being naive. 3D world, don't like it. Um, Chicken. Sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, shielding, and protective energy. Please go within. Be the shoulder. Be the lighthouse. Seedily diddly your truths. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow and the next one, whenever that is. Um, please don't forget to hit that like if you got anything out of it, even if you didn't understand it. Liking helps, subscribing helps. I'm just trying to push forward in the ways that I know that I can, and I have to get this channel going further and out. But it's expanding beautifully, and thanks to little Thor, not because of me. And authentically, if I were to dress like I was 20 years ago, yeah, sure, I would get a lot of people that just looked at me and, did things behind their desks. And I'm not a fan of that. Bad energy, bad juju. So until the next one, guys, thank you for watching. Please support, and hope to see you all live tomorrow in the chat. I'm excited. Bye for now.